here with Ariana Veras, who is the only White House correspondent who represents all of Africa here at the White House. And Ariana, it's such a big day here as President Trump has invited Rwanda and Congo to sign a peace deal that was announced just last week. You actually got to sit down with the president of the Congo in Africa earlier in the week and speak with him about this momentous, this historic event that's happening here today at the White House, and you will be in the Oval Office as well. But when you were talking to the president, you asked him essentially why the international community has ignored this for so long, and here's what he had to say.
The international community have forsaken us, and we are victims, and we have millions of victims recorded since then. Now, we believe that the international community ought to take side with us and help us sort this situation. That's why I would like to hereby thank the Trump administration for the efforts they are doing, and I'm even convinced that this will be successful. And I really want to say that finally the international community, through the United States taking the lead, have understood that they needed to help the DRC people.
So why do you feel like this has been ignored by so many around the world, this genocide, this fighting that's taken place for over 30 years?
Thank you so much, Lindsay, for having me. As you've mentioned, I was in Congo last week. I've witnessed myself how proud, how happy the people of Congo are because of this peace deal. And I've seen hope. You can tell that there is hope right now. And from the president answering your question, he have said hypocrisy. This is what he noticed from the international community and also from many African leaders, except, of course, the president of Angola, President João Lourenço, who worked very hard to bring peace to Congo, but unfortunately, he couldn't deliver. But now they are seeing into the United States, under, of course, the leadership of President Donald Trump, that finally they will see peace in Congo, which pretty much will bring development and, of course, economic benefit to the country.
Yes, and I believe we have that clip as well, where the president of the Congo is saying that it is hypocritical that Africa was not able to create or find a solution themselves. So let's listen to that.
We are ourselves the very problem. We are accepting and agreeing upon principles that we do not abide by. When I took office in 2019, there was a resolution that read, in 2020, the objective would be to silence the arms and weapons in Africa. Was it achieved? No. Today, it's very unsuccessful, meaning we are voting principles that we do not even abide by. As long as we behave this way, other continents would never respect us.
Ariana.
Well, the biggest problem with any of the African countries on the continent is that all the outside forces figure out which side they want to see win, which side is going to side with them after victory. And they feed them weapons and keep wars going. Where do these people get the resources to keep these wars going on for 30 years when the country's in ruin politically? But there's operations going on extracting minerals and riches from the land and business as usual. And the war can go on and be funded by these outside sources as long as they don't mess with the operations and shipping and getting those resources cultivated and out of the land and shipped off around the world. It's really sad. And we have had president after president after president since 1995 who have ignored it, who haven't tried to intervene, who have not tried to, because it's probably one of our allies who's got a stake in there, who's got a dog in the fight, who's funding something. France, probably. Terrible. The United States backs off and lets imperialism flow. But for Trump to step in and be like, man, we need to knock this war off, and to get in there, whether he figured out a way to get some benefit for America, These are human lives. These are African lives we're talking about. Neighboring countries, neighbors. They probably are genetically identical. There's no reason for them to be killing each other over 3 decades, and for anybody to be instigating that, and for everyone else to be standing back on the sideline and not doing anything to mediate that situation. So we got to give Trump some love for that one, because there are other presidents who could have taken the exact same steps and gotten the exact same result easily. That's not a difficult one. That's a matter of will, and not that you're being forced or tricked into nothing. He must have seen a way to get that done, and probably a benefit for the country, the United States, or his damn self personally. But the death and destruction that it will end is something that will make me nod in the favor of whatever the hell they had to do to cease that fire and let these people grow beyond the smell and of ashes and bombs, and move on to a place where they can prosper and grow, and not be dealing with people like USAID who giving them money when they got it. They just need to be left alone so that they can get things in order with no outside interference from these imperialist countries. They're terrible for Africa. And in the beginning of the story, the thing that grabbed me the most is that this young lady, the African news correspondent, is the only White House correspondent for the whole continent of Africa. All those countries in Africa. And she has to go and be the only one that's on the White House press corps from the continent of Africa. One. That's crazy. But apparently a big old continent like that, the biggest continent on the planet, is not important enough to have more than one news correspondent. Maybe they should have 3. One that covers the northern region, one that covers the central, and one that covers the southern region, to get everybody covered and not work the damn lady to death. But it just lets you know how important it is that Africa is represented, and its needs and concerns are being voiced. Even through this one lady, she breaks through. But it usually falls on deaf ears. Nobody wants to hear Africa's problems unless that problem can be turned into some money and a way for them to prosper and benefit. And maybe Trump dug down and figured a way out, but he ended a war that really was long, long, long overdue. It needed to end.
Why do you feel that Africa wasn't able to find a solution to this problem that's been going on since 1995?
Yeah, as the President Felix Tshisekedi have mentioned, he said that many African leaders would comment to him that is unfair, the war, but they would not public say it. Like he said, that was something that he couldn't take it. That was something not that some African leaders were doing, except one or other that would recognize that that was not the posture that most of African leaders should have. They should condemn, because that was one state invading another one because of the mineral and all the richness. And he was expecting for all the African leaders together to condemn and to act.
One African country invading another African country for its minerals and riches. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? But that's what this lady has a very difficult job. Being the only White House correspondent for the whole continent, she doesn't want to get kicked out. She doesn't want to get kicked out of the White House press corps, and she can't ask those questions. She can't be there to convey some messages and some concerns that come from her continent. She is the sole representative of that continent. She can't get in there and say what I'm saying. France is backing one of those sides to defeat the other side so they can get in there and get their money and get their minerals. It got to do with the outside imperialistic types. But she can't say that, because if she does, she'll be kicked out, or she'll never get called on for a question, or she'll lose access. She might be there presently, but in the physical, but that'll be it. They won't be listening to her no more. But she's playing the game appropriately well. She's representing the continent well. She's there standing next to Trump in the White House, and he's making eye contact and talking to her at length, and very proud of the peace deal that he brokered between those two nations. And we all, as Americans, should be happy, just as Americans, that there's one less war that has gone on for over 30 years to have ended. That's enough. And now these people need to get themselves up out of those ashes and move forward and not revert back and not be influenced to overthrow governments meaninglessly. You're allowed to fight wars in particular zones and zoned off areas as if it's a sporting event, while the real business is taken care of behind your back and out of your presence. And it shouldn't be that way, not in your country. You should not be warring and fighting only to gain control, to relinquish it to another power, an outside force. I think this is a step in the right direction. It could probably have been brokered way sooner, and it probably for way less. But the fact that the bloodshed will stop is the most beautiful thing for right now. We'll worry about that other stuff later. Everybody need to lick their wounds, get their stuff together, and it's going to take some time for this. But the outside forces are going to have to get out of there, or we'll be back in this cycle again and again and again.
But he couldn't see that. That's why he said that was something that he pretty much criticized for many years. But now, as I mentioned, he said, unfortunately, because of this hypocrisy from the African leaders, he ended up coming to United States. He ended up looking for solution in other places. And finally, the United States is taken serious under, of course, President Trump, because even previous administration never looked at this conflict with seriousness, with willing to help. They didn't do that. But finally, President Trump is the one who said, this must stop, this is wrong.
And we even heard the president of Congo say that President Trump didn't pay attention in his first term, but he is in his second term. What is the standpoint of Africans and how they view President Trump?
This is a great question, Lindsay, because I went to Congo. I spoke with the people, even little kids. You're not going to believe that. They know a man named Trump is doing something to bring peace to their country. Some of them, they don't know much about President Trump, but they know the name Trump because they know that's the man behind this upcoming peace that is coming to.
And that's what the United States wants. They want their name attached to something like peace, something positive in a particular region. No matter how the people are educated or not educated, they want to make sure that those people associate the United States with peace. And Donald Trump goes one step above that, and he wants to associate Trump with peace. And of course, he's the United States president for those who care. But he's the main focus is him and his brand. And it seems like it supersedes the wishes and what would be good for the country, because he's a polarizing figure. And she knows that the kids that she sees in these regions are able to speak about him and say his name and with smiles of glee on their face. And it's like, they don't really even understand too much about him, but the messaging is clear. And that's all it needs. No one has to sit them down and give them a course on the life and times of Donald Trump. All they need to know is that the war that was going on for 30 years isn't. There's a president in the United States who's new to that office. He had been there before, but he's 6 months in, and now the war is stopping. They can do the math. And it makes them feel good to know that they don't have to go to sleep scared at night, and they don't have to miss any more of their family members and lose them in these wars, and never ever do these young men get to grow up and have families and be productive and reach their full potentials. because they're in the middle of battles and killing each other over nothing, because their lives don't mean very much to whoever is funding this stuff. But Trump had a heart. That's why sometime I'm telling you guys, he shows glimmers. And that's the times when we can get in. Do you realize if we could just get Donald Trump, if the Congressional Black Caucus members, down in the House would go to Trump and say, hey, it's too late now. He didn't need him to get his agenda pushed through. But let's say they were willing to play ball with him. Hey, Trump, what do you need us to do? And he say, well, I need you to vote on this bill here. Help me out. I got some Republicans that's tripping and I'm not willing to kiss their ass. If I can just get you guys to vote with it and we can sit down and talk about doing something for your people. Why won't we think that way? Because if he gives us something, if we can negotiate something out of Trump, and then when the Democrats get back in power and they love us, remember, we're theirs. They're ours. Then we should be able to advance on that. We got a Republican to crack the door open and get us more, because we haven't gotten nowhere with these Democrats. We need something to give. Trump's doing things that even he didn't do last time as president. Shutting down the Congo and Rwanda war. Most people say, yeah, that's a big deal. And it's unfortunate that worldwide and in the grand scheme of things, it isn't a big deal. Most people really don't care. That's why it's been allowed to exist for 30 years. A war just going on and nobody don't really give a damn. If it ends, it's something that might, be on the back page of a news story somewhere, or it might get a little 2-minute piece. But for anybody to spend any amount of time on it, it's not going to happen because they don't give a damn. They don't. And this lady is aware of that. She has to be so smart to navigate that and not be offensive and not come across like entitled or anything like that. Be as humble as possible, as smart and educated, and look where they were able to get to. She has to accept some of that because she's the only correspondent they have in the White House from that continent. That's just something. That's a lot. And she's doing a damn good job, by the way. I was looking at her interviewing the president, the Congolese president, and she was breaking it down and sitting, doing her thing. And I was like, damn, that's like Barbara Walters level stuff there. She had her little set up nice and everything, but she has a lot of responsibility. And hopefully with African nations changing, things are evolving. They have to with time. You can only keep your foot on somebody's neck for so long. And with the end of this major, major conflict, it is looking promising over there. And hopefully it'll continue.
To Congo. And also, they are very, very happy. You can see hope in the eyes when you talk to the people. They say, finally, we'll be able to make our country grow. We'll be able to do business with people because we're not going to be focused on solving this war problem that has been lasting for many years and killing many people. So they are happy. They have hope now.
The president even suggested that the war between Rwanda and Congo has killed more people than World War II. Right. Just for context for our viewers here, President Trump has talked about how he has solved peace between Pakistan and Iran, Abraham Accords, which he hopes to have more of, and now Congo and Rwanda. You ask the president if he believes President Trump should get a Nobel Peace Prize because of that. Here's what he had to say.
Some people would say that this war has caused more dead than the Second World War. And I think if President Trump, thanks to mediation, managed to definitely end this war, he would really deserve this Nobel Prize.
These guys are very diplomatic and smart. Trump don't deserve no goddamn. I can't even say it. You guys know damn well he don't deserve no Nobel Peace Prize. Can't be, in reality, a United States president and get a Nobel Peace Prize. That's my personal opinion. I've always felt that way. When they gave it to Barack Obama, at the time, I agreed because he was barely getting into the office. He ain't done nothing yet. And then after they figured out that he was, like the rest of the presidents, he didn't get another one. They was like, oh, hell nah. He tricked them, though, because his campaign was perfect. And leading up, I would have given him a Nobel Peace Prize just because he won. And you would have thought that would have turned the temperature down across the globe and all of that. But this dude here is not no damn fool. He in there letting everybody know that Trump is the best thing since sliced bread. I ain't got nothing bad to say about him. Ain't nobody gonna make him say nothing bad about him. And he know what he doing. And right now, he got to get his country together. They got to lick them wounds and they got to get back up and progress and expose those outside negative forces that were causing all these young men to be dying out there in the battlefield when they could have been in a factory or in a plant or in a computer technology center or doing some kind of work medically for their country. There's so much more they could have been doing other than killing each other. And anybody who stands back and allows that to happen when they have the ability to stop it should be ashamed of themselves as a human being, as a president, and for their country. They should be ashamed.
I would go the first to vote for him.
Ariana, do you believe that this is something that these two countries will nominate the president for? Does it deem itself worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize?
When I spoke with President Tshisekedi, he was very clear that this was a word that previous administration, United States, couldn't do anything except this one under the leadership of President Trump. And he also know that President Trump is not only focused on Africa or solving this problem in Congo, but he's also focused on bringing peace between Russia and Ukraine and also in the Middle East. And he mentioned to me during this interview that because they see hope, peace coming to Congo, when finally the peace reach the Democratic Republic of Congo, he will be more than happy to nominate President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize.
And finally, before we leave,
they're gonna get a little extra by being on Trump like that, like, he's Nobel Peace Prize, and the president, the White House correspondent saying it. Trump is like feeling himself like, oh yeah, and I personally don't think he's going to get a Nobel Peace Prize or whatever, but these people are very intelligent to deal with Trump the way they are. They are from another continent. They ain't from Africa. This lady has come across the water and found a way to break through. Not with Biden, not with the Trump before that, not with the Obama before that. So from Bill Clinton forward, no other president listened, including Donald Trump, until his second go around, which is a wonderful thing. For whatever reason, it was ignored in this first round, but it isn't this time. That's all that matters. So going forward, we can be glad that that war is over, and whatever started it, we can make sure that we don't repeat that and let it go back into that again. And we can thank these people for being such intelligent, charismatic folks that they were able to get through to Donald Trump, because everybody isn't. And black people in the United States, my battle cry, this is our opportunity. If other people can come from across the ocean and manipulate this president of ours, then I know we charismatic enough to get in there and get our little bite at the apple. We ought to be able to get something out of this gentleman through a negotiation. And we will win twice, because the Democrats are going to have to up the ante, or they're going to be exposed. If we can get more out of the Republicans than we can the Democrats, they're going to be exposed.
Here, as a representative of all of Africa, as you are here at the White House, what does this moment not just mean for these two countries, but also Africa as a whole that makes up many, many countries?
Yeah, this is an historic day, of course, because as you know, many people in Africa know about this conflict for years, and no one could do anything to solve. Many Congolese die. The country is devastated. The country, even though has so many natural resources and so many opportunity from business, from tourism, from many areas, they wasn't able to grow because of the war. So now, with this peace deal agreement signing that we will be witness in a few hours, they are hopeful that the country finally will be able to rise and to grow. So, and this is not only a happy moment for the Congolese people, it's for the entire continent. Because even though some couldn't do much to solve this war problem, everybody's happy, everybody was expecting this war to end. Because those are two brother and sister country like Rwanda and Congo. They are neighbor country. They are pretty much family. They shouldn't be fight. And thanks to President Trump for looking to that and do something. This is a hope not only for Congo, but for the entire continent, because all the continent, all the countries in Africa, they want this war and many other wars to end.
Well, thank you for being here to talk with us. Thank you for sharing your interview with the...
It's just a damn shame that a brother and sister nation could fight for 30 years because they're being instigated by foreign powers, foreign entities. And it is nice for Trump to intervene and break that up and settle that down and get peace treaties signed. And it's just so unnecessary. I know that he had to rub somebody the wrong way. The UN, somebody in the UN is pissed because he's stepping on their toes. They had a war going that was keeping these people distracted and fighting over nothing while they just gave them land rights to extract whatever they needed out of there, whatever of value was there, while they just give them enough money to go over there and kill themselves. You're paying them to exterminate themselves, basically. UN third-party country involved in the Congo Rwandan war. You know who I'm talking to. But it's really sad. And hopefully that they will begin to respect Africa, and we'll see it, because they will go from one correspondent to 2 to 3 and maybe 4. But that continent needs to be covered based on its importance in the world and not based on what imperialistic entity on the outside is controlling their resources. They need to stand up and be allowed to stand up and not keep being kneecapped by these countries who are just damn greedy and bloodthirsty. And like, comment, share, and please subscribe. And we'll see you on the next Black Popcorn.